Hello!
Hello.
We did a twofer today. In that, the camera's a bit too low. Oh well, we just got a hunch, it's fine. Anyway, twofer because I have a Patreon request. Sorry, no. Yes. Patreon request, Backseat critique, Meet the fucking Feebles.
Is that the sequel? Meet the fucking Feebles.
That would have been so good. But at the same time, I'm also planning a Meet the Feebles crossover for Con Bravo, so I was taking notes as well. Although, it's possibly more fool me, given that was my idea to do a Meet the Feebles crossover. This film is going to be really hard to do a review for. I might actually point this out in the review, that because it is A, comedy, B, a good comedy, it's really hard to take the piss out of, and even if I do successfully do the best comedy review of Meet the Feebles possible, it's basically going to be the equivalent of David, like from the Bible, throwing stones at a giant fucking killer robot, because this thing is already better. So it's very pointless. But I'll try. That's all I can do. Part of why I do the review show is so people can find out about these fucking mental films, and Meet the Feebles deserves to have as much of a signal boost as I can give it.
It's a very good film. The process for taking notes normally ends up with the writer and whoever she can rope in to shout out random bits and pieces to write down that could be funnies.
Although I wasn't shouting much, I was sort of just writing down ideas.
Well, you've no reason to shout them to me. I'm not writing them down. I shout them to you. But I didn't shout out much during this because...
Ideally, I meant to shout too, so then you can possibly play off the idea, come up with twists of it, and then I come up with twists. That's the shouting is so that we can both play with each other's ideas.
But the things that you would shout out or laugh at in this film are the jokes that this film is trying to make.
Yeah.
So you can't really take the piss.
It's like doing a Nostalgia Critic episode on The Naked Gun. I would like to see that because it would be really weird, but it's not going to be as good as the film, and it would probably be pointless, ultimately. So let's go. This is going to, hopefully, that's probably what the resulting episode is going to be, but I'm going to try my fucking best to make it worthy of the film, because the film is fucking great. Not perfect, but great. Anyway, the film.
It was very good.
Yes.
It was one of the best examples of parody since Airplane, in my personal opinion.
You need to be louder.
I'm very softly spoken. It's bad habits. But I said it's one of the better examples of parody since Airplane, which is one of my favourite films, and because I've seen the original film it was based on, which the title escapes me of at the moment.
0 Hour.
Yes, because I've seen 0 Hour, I appreciate Airplane a lot more.
I have a copy of 0 Hour, and for ages I was thinking I would take scenes from 0 Hour and sort of edit them with scenes from Airplane to make it look like... Because 0 Hour, it's basically the setup for jokes in Airplane. It's really weird watching it after seeing Airplane, because Airplane's like, here's a line, here's a joke on that line. This one is just the setup. So I wanted to edit them together to make it into basically like a weird version, sweeted version of Airplane. But someone apparently already did that on YouTube, so I don't have to.
It's like watching Scary Movie after seeing, or watching Scream after seeing Scary Movie, except to a lesser degree because they're not quite as good.
Because Scary Movie's crap.
Yeah. But, yeah, so Meet the Feebles is basically that for the Muppets.
Yep. It is a pitch-perfect parody of the Muppets. And like Galaxy Quest, also probably going to point this out in the review, but like Galaxy Quest, I don't know if it would make the film any better if it was actually made with what it's parodying, as in like with Galaxy Quest, if they'd actually just made it about the Star Trek actors being kidnapped by aliens and forced to a space adventure. I don't know if this would be better if they actually used the Muppet characters, but I'd fucking love to see it.
Yeah. Well, as they say, knowledge is knowing that Galaxy Quest is not a Star Trek film. Wisdom is understanding that Galaxy Quest is one of the best Star Trek films.
Ooh!
Yeah. So, the basic premise of it is basically just like the Muppets, it's the variety show being put on, and then you're seeing all the backstage drama with the talent and producers and director all getting up in a bungle with themselves and stuff like that.
Soap opera.
Except this is dark, and it takes a lot of cues from sort of observational comedy about what the actual theatre industry is like, rampant with drugs and backstage sex and all the rest of it.
There is a lot of comedy bigotry, but most of it's not mean-spirited. Some of it is some of it can barely tell where the joke is, what the joke is, but most of it's there just for comedic purposes, and it's handled much more competently than a lot of films doing the same sort of material. Probably mine included, though I don't think I ever do much of that. Do I?
In a roundabout way.
Okay.
For example, there's the Vietnam War is depicted as being between cats and frogs, but the cats are all buck-toothed and have R's and L's swapped in their language. And
yeah, it's like someone looked at a cat and said, you know what, that could stand to be about 20% more racist. But weirdly, it was the racist depiction of the Vietnamese were a racist depiction of Japanese from World War II.
Yeah.
She's like, it's not quite weird enough to add to the comedy. It's just close enough to the actual real world racism to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I also don't know any racist stereotypes about Vietnamese people.
It's a point. That's if they just like added in, I don't know, racist stereotypes, but someone completely disconnected from Vietnam, say like, I don't know, Italy. What sort of depiction? What do they have about Italy?
Hey, you stole my pizza pie, my brother Dimitri.
Because that would just make it completely mental.
I don't know. That's.
But
actual Italian people are nothing like the American idea of Italians as well.
Yeah. There's a really funny story actually about because this film, you got all that stuff, and you have this extended Vietnam flashback as the frog knife thrower is having a flashback to his life, what made him into a drug addict in Vietnam. And if my memory serves me correctly, that whole section was not actually filmed for Meet the Feebles. That Jackson worked out the budget he was given for Meet the Feebles didn't cover everything, so he cut that part out, didn't film it, and then later on he got a separate budget to film that section as a short film called Frogs of War, and then in post he stitched them together, which I thought was very clever.
Yeah, and it is the Peter Jackson of The Lord of the Rings, etc.
Yeah, early Peter Jackson was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I still have affection for later Peter Jackson, but just like he has a lot of talents that Hollywood big budget films don't let him use.
Yeah, me being the Luddite that I am, this Beat the Feebles and the Lord of the Rings trilogies are pretty much the Peter Jackson I have exposure to.
You've never seen Brain Dead?
No.
Or Bad Taste?
Oh wait, was Brain Dead the one?
The Lawnmower.
Yeah, no, I've seen Brain Dead.
Yeah, that was his third film after Meet the Feebles. He
a lot of gore in that film.
Yeah, deliberately.
Yeah.
They were going for world record amount of blood in a film.
A lot of gore in Meet the Feebles.
Not quite as much as Brain Dead or Bad Taste, though.
More than the Muppets.
Well, a little bit, yes. Because, the Miss Piggy stand-in gets a rifle and starts killing everyone else in the cast.
Yep.
Because, she has a mental breakdown. So
That's the grand finale, and to be honest, by the end of it, the only characters left alive are the ones that the audience has been sort of not taught to hate.
Except for the elephant.
Oh, well, he was a scumbag.
Yeah, he's like the nastiest character who survived. Although, the director's a bit of an asshole. Oh, sorry, spoilers. The director survives too.
Yeah.
He's a bit of an asshole, but he did create the probably most single greatest part of early Peter Jackson's film career. The Sodomy song, which if you see my Raspberry Reich review, you've seen part of. It is outstanding. It is the most memorable thing Jackson did, probably to something to do with Heavenly Creatures. It's even more memorable than the Lawnmower Massacre and Brain Dead.
The sea lion was very Harvey Weinstein.
I thought it was a walrus.
I don't know the difference. Walruses have moustaches, I think.
Didn't he have a mustache?
I don't know.
We're talking about Blatch.
Blatch.
The ostensible villain of the film, although a lot of characters are very villainy. It's like a lot of characters in this are villains of their own films, but they're not the main focus of this one, because almost 90% of people in this are scumbags.
Yeah, so you have Blatch, the producer of the show, who treats everybody like shit and runs a drug cartel on the side and has no qualms about murdering people who get in his way.
Or just eating innocent people.
You've got the rat who's like his right-hand man who is running the side business making porno, and likes to roofie and rape people. You've got the bulldog who is his other right hand dude who just kind of goes around being a big scary bulldog and killing people.
Yeah.
You've got the worm who's like
the theatre manager. He's one of the most pleasant characters in the film.
Yeah, but he's still a bit sneezely. You've got the fox who's a dick to everyone. He's the director.
Yeah. The very, very gay fox.
Who very much turns a blind eye to Bletch's shit, even though he's fully cognizant of it all. Sings a song at the end about sodomy, which he's been wanting to sing the entire way through, but like they run out of material while on live TV.
Sodomy, I think it's very odd of me, but I enjoy the act of sodomy.
Who doesn't?
Try it front to bum 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 sodomy.
I should suggest this for the choir I've joined.
You should. Also get Nash to play it on Radio Dead Air all the fucking time. It's been a long time since I watched Meet the Feebles. Probably best part, like all the way through, probably best part of 10 years. But still awesome. When it comes to the, stuff that was fairly racist, like with the cats in Vietnam, I can see that that's basically a misfiring joke. But then there's the Indian person in it.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be a camel, but
it's really hard to tell. He looks just like a Muppet human.
Yeah, he looks like a racist interpretation of a Muppet Gandhi.
And so yeah, as far as until he actually gets his head shoved up his ass and stuck there because he's a contortionist, as far as I can tell, there is no actual jokes involving him. It's just an Indian who can, do stereotypically Indian things. Like
snake charm and float above a bed of nails and meditating.
Yeah, and has the worst, most horrifically racist Indian accent.
Yeah, it fell quite flat on me, to be honest.
Yeah, trying to work out where the jokes actually came from him were a bit difficult, but yeah, he's not in it for very much. So it doesn't really take away from everything else. But everything else, the humor was usually on point. And if it wasn't on point, you could at least tell what they were going for, generally.
It's not like... It did have a lot of shock value and gross out moments in it and stuff like that. But there's a certain, step back element because you're looking at puppets and not, badly done gore makeup that a lot of modern parody films seem to lack. And there's just... There's an element to this kind of stuff missing these days, in my opinion, in filmmaking. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but...
Are you talking about the use of technology, or are you talking about tone, or...
I'm talking about writing. The jokes these days don't tend... Say I wanted to make a parody of... I don't know. Give me a recent large film. Say I want to make a Marvel Universe parody, and I went to...
No problem with that is in order to do it properly, you'd probably need a budget comparable to Marvel.
Okay, well, say I become producer, I win the lottery, I'm able to do this, I approach a studio to do it, they get their top writers on it, I'm not the comedy writer. The jokes would never reflect as perfectly a Marvel film as what older parody, like before mentioned Airplane or this film, do reflect what they're based on. It would all be stuff like, haha, that sounds a bit like dick in the original, so let's say the word dick 12 times.
I will argue a little bit with you. Think about it this way. The parodies you're thinking about, the older ones, they're the ones who have stood the test of time and who were generally made as after whatever they're parodying had finished. So they were able to look at it as a whole. Marvel is still going on, so if you're trying to parody something that we're in the middle of, it's much harder because you can't get the full view of it. Airplane was a parody of, 0 Hour in particular, but I think it's 0 Hour, but also the airplane disaster films, which had basically been petering out at that point.
Yeah.
You've got, other great parodies,
Okay, so the thing that we want to parody now then would be...
you have to wait until Marvel has really fallen a bit.
Well, in that case, we want to look at Maze Runners.
Oh, the YA one. We are,
YA stuff. We want to look at parodies of that at this point in time.
We are time-wise, we are a perfect time to have a brilliant YA parody. it's not going to happen because it would require a big budget. So for good parodies, comedies don't make a lot of money at the box office generally. They're not blockbusters. Like, I want to know what sort of idiot decided that, regardless of the terrible script, who decided that the Ghostbusters remake should have had that size of a budget. There was no way in fucking hell, even if it was good, that it would have made it back. So parodying stuff that requires such a high special effects budget, that's also a problem. If you want to get a Marvel parody, they've got an inbuilt way of doing it. Just make a straight film adaptation of Next Wave, which was Marvel parodying themselves in this thing that was sort of connected to the rest of the universe, but not quite. Maybe in the same universe, maybe not. And it would be just adapt it perfectly, change a little bit to be fitting in the MCU, and it would be Marvel parodying themselves, and it would be fucking amazing.
Yeah, what you need to do to make a Marvel parody movie, I think, is just start off with two people who are obviously going to work together, give them some minor cause to dislike each other, or no cause at all, they just do naturally. They eventually get the MacGuffin power suit, or ability to control some power they've been born with. They then work harmoniously in the climax to take down the blue laser that's shooting a blue hole in the sky.
Well, that's just generally a superhero parody. It's not Marvel in particular.
Oh,
For Marvel in particular, you need to have the sort of
witty banter.
You got that, but also the really unique thing about Marvel, apart from the things that are broadly just other superhero stuff, is its world building with other things that you're not seeing at that moment. Sort of like referencing things from other films. So what you would need to do to parody that is something along the lines of Buckaroo Banzai. Have you seen Buckaroo Banzai?
The name rings a bell, but no.
Okay, Buckaroo Banzai is fascinating but not brilliant. But it is basically, Kyle did a review of it, Owen and Susan did a video about it, and it is essentially an Avengers movie, or like Avengers 4 or 5, so it's incredibly established. But there's no other parts of the fictional universe, so you've got a lot of a lot of random weird shit is happening for stuff that is not set up, and you got a lot of stuff happening that they half reference things from other things. It's amazing. It is possibly the Marvel parody you're looking for, but it was made in the 80s.
That's my point. I don't think I've seen a parody in the last 10, 15 years with such a perfect level of tone as the older stuff. That
the good stuff is remembered generally. There was a lot of crap parodies around then too. People can get upset about this, but a lot of Mel Brooks' stuff is shit.
Well, yeah, but
the good ones are remembered, and everything else is just sort of we ignore.
Men in Tights.
Dracula Dead and Loving It was fucking god awful.
Yeah, it was. What's the one I like? Black Sheriff. Blazing Saddles. And Spaceballs are the three Mel Brooks films that I think were good.
And even Mel Brooks, when he's good, is a lot of very samey stuff. Yeah. He doesn't have the variety of some other people.
For somebody who, whenever I first started watching the Mel Brooks films, growing up kind of like 14, 15-year-old, having lived all my life in Northern Ireland, absolutely no exposure to American Jewish culture, it was quite confusing. I didn't know what he was joking about. I got the jokes in Blazing Saddles.
He also created Get Smart.
Oh yeah.
The not the film version, although he's probably an executive producer, but he did the TV series from the 60s, which actually I quite like. I've got on DVD. Yeah.
This has devolved down a rabbit hole. This has nothing to do with Meet the Feebles anymore.
Meet the Feebles is good, proper, great parody of the Muppets. I don't really want to give away everything about it. There's violence, there's sex, there's nasal sex, there's a cow with nipple rings.
There's explicit close-up sex.
Yeah, between puppets. It's basically, imagine the Muppets through the mind's eye of someone who's done a lot of drugs at like YIFCon.
It's the Muppets if the Daily Mail's reality of how the theatre world is run is true. I think that's an apt description.
Yeah, I'm sorry this is so short and/or tangenty. It's hard to talk about this. We can't talk about bits that were shit because it's consistently good and imaginative. It's hard to find bits just to concentrate on. It's why it's going to be a difficult episode to write too.
Yeah, the racist stuff was a bit of the left field, but that...
Yeah, that's why it's so memorable, because everything else was like so good, on the same level, and then suddenly it's like...
a consistently well-made, well-written,
really low budget too.
Low-budget, good film the whole way through.
I believe Jackson created Weta Workshop to make this film, and so Weta has been doing amazing special effects stuff since fucking day one. I mean, Bad Taste, Jackson did all the special effects himself. The reason in Bad Taste the aliens have weird shaped heads is because because Jackson was living with his parents at the time, his mother's oven was not big enough to make the alien heads that he made. So they got crushed against the top of it. So all the aliens have these flat topped heads. So yeah, now you know more about Jackson.
Yeah, Peter Jackson is a good director.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs to be given a passion project again, or something like that, rather than being asked to come back and do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, it's just like, Jackson, please do something low budget, practical effect.
Bring
You
some horror.
are fucking brilliant. It's like him leaving that area and apparently never coming back to it is as big a tragedy as Michael Palin giving up on writing comedy and becoming a documentarian. Bill Oddie, the same sort of thing. Like, he was a demon at writing sort of silent comedy if you see his stuff in the goodies. But now he just does bird watching stuff. I mean, obviously he likes doing what he's doing, but it's like, you were really good at that.
One of my favourite books when I was like 5 was a book of child-friendly limericks by Michael Palin. Even that was good. Not many children's comedy books are good. Captain Underpants, though, was amazing.
I'll take your word for it.
It's got a canonically bi and gay character as the leads in a kid's book, and one's white and one's black, and it's actually funny, and it gets across the message without beating you over the head with it. Like, it's also an extremely long series of books, so don't go out and buy all 30 odd books from the series now, because I said that. Don't let me make your decisions for you, but watch the fucking Feebles, they're good.
Yeah. And if you want to see more of Jackson's early stuff, you can easily find Bad Taste, you can easily find Brain Dead or Dead Alive in the cut version in America, because you guys lost several minutes of gore. After that, you got Heaven the Creatures, Oscar-nominated drama, really good. The Frighteners, which is a comedy horror sort of. It's like Beetlejuice, but with serial killers and CGI. That's good. Then he did Lord of the Rings, and I'm guessing at this point, after Lord of the Rings, you know what he did. King Kong, The Hobbit, Lovely Bones, blah blah blah. He's sort of less
Bones, I forgot about that.
Less imaginative now, but his most obscure film, and I'd really suggest you take a look at it if you're interested in the history of film, is Forgotten Silver. It's a parody documentary, like Spinal Tap. It was done for, I believe, New Zealand television to be played on April Fool's Day to convince them that they found a new national hero of New Zealand cinema. And so he enlisted a bunch of Hollywood people to do talking head interviews in this thing about how this guy in the 1910s invented the close-up on the porno. And it was aired and a lot of people thought that it was real, and it's hilarious. That's called Forgotten Silver. It's really good.
Porno was much older than 1910.
Let's just remember, it's been about 10 years since I've seen it.
I know, but I've seen porn from before 1910.
We all have. Well, maybe they haven't, but I could be off on the dates.
Yeah. There's a certain extra satisfaction about knowing the person that you're looking at is almost certainly dead.
The camera's not going to turn itself off.
Watch Meet the Feebles, it's fucking good.